Well, welcome to the Park City Market Talk webinar, where you get the latest news about what's been happening in the Park City real estate market. I'm Ron Wilstein, broker here at Keller Williams Real Estate in Park City, Utah.
And I'm Jeremy Wilstein, buyer consultant for the Wilstein team, and we're here to share with you what's been happening in the world of Park City real estate. We're broadcasting from our offices near the Canyons Resort in Park City. We bring these presentations to you live each month on the second Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and we do this to be your source for current information about the Park City real estate.
We present our Park City Market Talk webinars to keep you informed of any changes that are occurring in the Park City real estate market and to make you aware of some timely issues that happen throughout the year, which we're going to cover in this presentation now.
And for those of you who are accustomed to watching our Market Talk webinars, you can tell that our screen and presentation looks slightly different from what you're used to.
And the reason for that is we're test driving some new platforms and actually had a bit of a hiccup today, so we're recording this in advance. It is not a live session as it normally is, but we want to make sure we got the information out to you, and so here we are to do that. All right, we need some new buttons here to push. 4th of July, we just passed the 4th of July this weekend, had a fun time. Threw on the screen some pictures from the parade, and if you ever are in town for the 4th of July, you should definitely check that out. It's a fun time. Jeremy, so what's on board for our presentation today?
So as we are midway through the year, we thought we would go back and share with you what has occurred during the first half of this year in terms of sales and sold prices and compare them with the same period in 2012.
And then for those of you who have not heard, the Canyons entered into an agreement with Vail Resorts to operate the resort for the next 50 years, actually longer than that, and we'll tell you some of the details here in a moment. But interesting changes, very good for the resort, very good for the Park City community.
And with property tax notices scheduled to go out to property owners in about 3 weeks, we thought we would give you some information on what to look for in the tax notice and if you'd like us to do a tax appeal for you.
And then finally, since we're going to spend the first part of our session today looking at the first half of 2013, I thought that I would share some forecasts as to what I anticipate will happen for the rest of the year. So we'll take a look at that together.
All right, well, let's just jump right into our topics.
All right. Now, let's take a look at what's been happening in the Park City real estate market. And as we do, we're going to specifically be covering information for the first 6 months of the year from January 1st, 2013, all the way through to June 30th of 2013. And we'll compare that with the first 6 months of 2012.
All right, so the total number of homes, condominiums, and vacant land sold during the first half of this year is up by 11%, or 60 sales, from the total number of sales during the same time period the year before. There were 631 sales in Park City during the first half of 2013 compared to 571 in the first half of 2012.
Now, breaking that down specifically into our major categories, there were 257 homes sold during the first 2 quarters of this year compared to 242 during that same time period the year before. So 15 more home sales, an increase of about 6%. Condominium sales were also up by 7%, with 267 closed sales the first 6 months of this year compared to 250 the year before. And then finally, lot sales were up a total of 35%, or 28 sales, from 79 sales in 2012 to 107 in 2013. So it's great to see all the categories are up. That's exciting news as we continue to watch our market recover and the real estate pick up.
Now we'll take a more closely look at what sold. Home sales in Park City are up 14% from the year before, with 103 sales during the first half of 2013 compared to 90 the year before. Home sales were up modestly in Snyderville Basin, 154 sales during the first half of the year compared to 152 the year before, so an increase of 2 sales, or 1%.
Now, as we turn our attention to condominiums, they rose both within the Park City limits as well as the Snyderville Basin. Condominium sales rose by 7% within the Park City limits with 160 closed sales within the first 6 months of this year compared to 149 the year before. So that's 11 more sales. In the Snyderville Basin, we see that it went up by a similar amount, 6%, from 101 sales the year before to 107 this past 6 months.
And within the Park City limits, lot sales rose by 6 sales, with 29 sales in the past 6 months compared to 23 in the same 6-month period in 2012, up 26%. Lot sales rose in the county area with 22 more sales during the past 6 months compared to that of the 6 months in 2012. This past year, we saw 78 sales in the Snyderville Basin compared to 56 sales for the first 2 quarters in 2012. So this amounts to a 39% increase year over year.
So all in all, we are seeing, again, in each month, improvements in terms of number of sales, good for our real estate market here in Park City, and encouragement for buyers to move now, and obviously some are, encouragement for sellers to be able to sell their properties.
Now we'll talk about prices quickly. Property values, they are up in all 3 categories: homes, condominiums, and vacant land. Home prices are up by 12% within the Park City limits. The median home price rose during the past year to $1,235,000 from $1.1 million the previous year. Prices also rose in Snyderville Basin from $589,000 to $700,000 during the past year, an increase of 19%.
Excellent. Now, as we turn our attention to condominiums, the median prices here rose by 10 and 21%, depending upon the area. Median prices for condos in the Park City city limits rose by $50,000 or 10%, from $515,000 first 6 months of 2012 to $565,000 the past 6 months of this year. Condominium prices rose in the Snyderville Basin by 21%, from $265,000 all the way up to $321,497, a nice $56,467 increase. So that's pretty sweet.
This is. And taking a look at land values, it rose in the city and they fell in the county area. Median price for vacant land in Park City was $525,000, up 5% from $500,000 the year before. And lot prices in Snyderville Basin fell by 6% over the previous year. They fell by $16,000 from $290,000 to $274,000.
All right, so that's our data for the market overall. Let's turn our attention to the canyons. A lot of exciting news happening there.
All right. Yeah, so if you didn't hear last month, we announced that the Canyons Resort had just entered into an agreement with Vail Resorts to operate the resort during the upcoming 2013-2014 ski season. Now, this agreement between Vail and Talisker Corporation is to lease and operate Canyons Resort for this upcoming 2013-2014 ski season. And as you know, Vail Resort is one of the ski industry's top brands currently operating in Colorado, Tahoe, Switzerland, and Austria, and is now here in Park City. And while Vail Resorts will be responsible for operating the canyons, Talisker Corporation will retain the developmental rights over the land.
So they entered into a 50-year lease agreement with 6 50-year renewal options. It's reported that Vail Resorts will pay $25 million annually in fixed payments that will increase annually based upon an inflation index. Talisker will also be paid 42% of the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization of the resort's operations exceeding $35 million. So Vail Resorts is anticipating putting a long-term debt obligation on its balance sheet of approximately $305 million. Totally committed to this endeavor here. So what's that going to mean for our Park City Resort canyons? Well, it's very clear that Vail is a leader in mountain resort industry, and Talisker couldn't be more thrilled with their partnering with them, because they're confident that Vail can duplicate at the canyons the success that they have delivered on at such resorts as Vail, Beaver Creek, Breckenridge, and North Star. The agreement includes the possibility of the Vail Resorts lease expanding to the acreage at the Park City Mountain Resort that is under the ownership of a Talisker Corporation controlled firm. The Park City Mountain Resort and the Talisker firm are engaged, interestingly enough, in a lawsuit centering on the lease of the land at the Park City Mountain Resort. But that's going to get resolved, and when that matter does get resolved, it's anyone's guess exactly what they're going to do with the land between the two resorts. But let your imagination run wild, and the possibilities are pretty exciting.
And another part that's exciting is the Epic Pass, surprise multi-resort ski pass sold by Vail Resorts, will now include access to the Canyons Resort during the upcoming 2013 and 2014 ski season as a result of the lease deal between Talisker and Vail Resorts. So this means people who would buy the Epic Pass would be able to use it at the Canyons on an unlimited and unrestricted basis. The Epic Pass is also good at Vail, Beaver Creek, Breckenridge, and Keystone, which are all in Colorado, and the Lake Tahoe region resorts of North Star, Heavenly, and Kirkwood. The Epic Pass for 2013-2014 ski season is currently priced at $689 for adults, which is significantly lower than the price of the season pass at Canyons Resort last year. The Epic Pass is well known in the industry for offering buyers flexibility between two of North America's prime skiing regions, Colorado, Lake Tahoe, and now Utah.
That's right.
So everyone's excited. I'm excited. Everybody's excited about this agreement. So it should be good.
Just outside our offices here. So it's pretty great. All right. Well, let's take a look at what's on our calendar for next month. 3 key events are happening in August that we wanted to take some time just to mention to you here.
Yeah, so the first is the Park City Arts Festival on August 2nd through the 4th, right on Main Street. The Kimball Arts Center put on this event each year, and it's well worth attending. It's a fun festival each year with lots of cool art and things to see. There's always something. Going on Main Street. So this is another festival. They're going to close down Main Street for the weekend. It's a lot of fun.
That's right. So if you're not in town, maybe pop in town, and I think you'll enjoy it. But bring a hat. It's usually sunny and warm. The next thing is our next issue of the Park City Market Link newsletter will be in the mail out during the second half of July. It's always filled with informative articles, market statistics, and details that people are interested in. So if you're not currently on our mailing list and would like to receive our newsletters free of charge, send us your name and your mailing address, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of our latest issue that will come off the press in about 2 weeks or so. Simply email me your mailing information at ron@thewilsteinteam.com, and I'll be sure that you get your issue of it.
And August is also the month that all Park City property owners will receive in the mail their property tax notice from Summit County Assessor's Office. This notice will inform property owners of the value they have assigned to your property and what the anticipated property tax that will be due at the end of November.
You have approximately 45 days from the time in which you receive your tax notice to appeal the valuation that they've assigned to your property if you don't feel that it's correct.
That's right. So Summit County Auditor will give you until September 16th, 2013 to make a case to lower your property assessment, which in turn will result in your property taxes being lower for the year.
Now, you can't do anything at this time because we'll mention this a little bit early. Until you receive your tax notice around the beginning of August, there's not much for you to do. It's at that time that you will learn what the Summit County Auditor's Office has assigned to your property as a value, and you want to know exactly where to look for on that form. So next month when we cover this, we're going to take some time, show you the forms, make sure that you know where to look and see if the value is correct. They haven't made any mistake there. A mistake on your taxes, costs you money directly. This is why we're not going to discuss in great detail here. It's just too soon. The notices are not out, but for next month, we're definitely going to cover that.
But for those of you who simply can't wait and must know how the process of appealing your taxes works, you can go to our special website, BuyParkCity.com, and review the details there.
We have outlined there the entire process and some options that are available to you if you decide or think that you're being taxed too much for your property. It's very logical, and simply go to ParkCityTaxAppeal.com website now. Or you can wait until a month when you actually get the form, but it's there available. So if you want to snoop around and look in advance of what you may be dealing with in August. We're mentioning it now, and feel free to do that.
All right. Well, since we summarized what has occurred in the Park City real estate market during the first 6 months of this year, it seems fitting that we share with you what we anticipate will happen during the remaining 6 months of 2013. So to do this, present my father.
Here I am. Well, whenever we present the mid-year report, we're always asked what we think is going to occur in the remaining months of the year. And so we're looking at my crystal ball. I share with you my thoughts and estimations as to what I think may occur during the next 6 months. And it's always interesting to look at it back then and see how well I did. So here we go for the ride. Let's begin with home sales. Home sales remain the strongest segment of our marketplace, and they continue, or they include primary residences as well as second homes. I expect the sales will remain strong throughout the rest of the year, which is positive news. There is a limited supply of good, properly priced homes on the market. When they come out on the market, and they're priced right, they sell right away. So it's a very healthy market. Just yesterday, I know that a property came on the market in the Prospector area. I know that you saw it early on. I had a client. I'm not sure how that ended up, but you were all over it because you didn't want to lose that. So, when those properly priced properties come on the market, it's important to jump on them, because if you're not, someone else is watching for them. This sort of urgency, I believe, will continue throughout the year, and most likely well into next year. Home prices, consequently, are likely to rise, and they will continue to climb throughout the remainder of this year. Now, with condominiums, condominium prices are finally on the rise, which is, again, positive news for everybody. We've been reporting this each month in our Market Talk webinars. Most recently, we have been seeing several buyers willing to step up and purchase properties above the fair market value, because the inventory of condominiums for sale is so limited in certain properties, not all of them, but in certain properties, that they believe that they're willing to pay more than the fair market value of the property is, willing to pay what the sellers are asking, because they believe in a short period of time that value will be at that place, and there still may not be selection available. So it's been interesting to see buyers, often cash purchasers, stepping up, paying prices, and I had a transaction that we're still in the middle of, and that was the situation required for the seller at a certain price, and we were up front and said, buyers, this is what you're going to need to do. And the cash buyer came along and said, I'm willing to do it. I want to make sure I don't miss out on this property. So that's very, very good. Those of you who have been following our Market Talk webinars for several years know that there was a period of time where the condos just kept going down and down and down. Couldn't give anything away. Well, we're beyond that. So that's very, very good news. So we're pretty happy about that. So limited inventory is going to help condos move for the rest of the year. The days of sellers needing to compete against distressed properties, either short sales or foreclosure bank-owned properties, are almost gone. Only about 6% of all of our listings on the market today are distressed properties. Now, these sorts of properties are almost entirely gone from our marketplace, and this is allowing real estate prices in Park City to rise again. So that's only going to get better. There's just limited opportunities like that. And I expect investors will continue to purchase properties throughout 2013 like they've been doing. They seem to remain very convinced that we're still at the bottom of the market in terms of prices, and so they're willing to buy and buy pretty quickly, and often with cash. So speaking of cash, let's talk about cash for a little bit. Cash buyers will continue. They're going to buy, and cash buyers always strengthen the market because the transactions move quickly. They're not subject to appraisals if a market is moving up, and it sometimes catapults the market upward. 53% of all sales in Park City were done with all cash thus far this year. So that's an amazing figure. It's higher than any area that I'm aware of across the country, certainly well above the national average, but it's a reality in Park City. So as long as people have cash and they're willing to spend it on real estate, we're going to see values increase, and that's good news. And we're going to see property properties sell. Now, when we turn to land, as we reported, vacant land has been very strong during the first half of 2013. It saw the greatest increase in transactions as well as prices. And I expect that to continue as new construction financing is becoming more available than in the past several years. That creates an opportunity that people are jumping on. And while you're hearing information about interest rates rising a little bit, and they are, they're still really, really low. And that makes buying and building a real option. In most cases, there remains a pretty good selection of vacant land available for purchase. So while I believe prices will remain stable, I don't necessarily believe they're going to rise that much this year. I'd like to report otherwise, but that is my take on it. And let's move on to sellers. Okay, sellers have been willing to come off their list prices during negotiations between 4 to 6% on average this year in order to sell their properties. And I expect this will continue through the rest of the year. In those instances where there are limited comparable properties for sale, we might see that discount reduce some, but it will be in select areas with limited supply instances. So I don't see necessarily across the board, but I think we will see some areas where there's just not too many choices. Sellers being willing to dig in their heels, hold firm on their prices, and buyers stepping up to it so they won't have to come off as much. Now, the flip side of that coin, of course, is to talk about list prices. It's worth noting that, as we have pointed out several times in our webinars, that when sellers list their properties for 10% or more above the fair market value of a property, they rarely receive any offers from buyers to purchase the properties. The 10% or greater price above fair market value remains a major resistance point for buyers these days, who seem to be pretty well understanding the market conditions, and they're just not willing to pay more than what a property is worth, with few exceptions. And I mentioned earlier one of the exceptions is in condos, if they feel like they're just going to go up as people bring them on the market, they're willing to do, but we're not really seeing it anywhere else, and not a large enough sampling that I think can rely upon it. So that's where I see the Park City market heading for the rest of 2013. If you have any questions about anything that I've shared here today, I welcome your comments. In fact, as we now wrap up our webinar for this evening, this is when we normally would take some questions or comments from our audience. Again, because of our technical difficulties, we're not able to present this month's webinar live, but you can always send us questions. And well, that doesn't apply because that box isn't working today, but you can watch past webinars at thewilsteinteam.com/webinar archives, and we'll click through these. If you have questions, since we're not able to take them live right now, feel free to call us at 487-0151 if you're in Park City, or toll free 1-800-535-0151, or email Jeremy or Ed or myself, and we'll be happy to assist you in any way that we can. Well, that's the end.
Good stuff.
So next month, Tuesday, August 13th at 7 p.m., we expect that it will be live. Again, we apologize for any inconvenience, but we hope this has been informative. And from all of us in Park City, have a great evening or day.
Good night.